Hey everybody, it's Travis, the Pagan Scholar, and today I'm going to be reviewing a book. I'm going to be reviewing Alex Marr's Witches of America. If you're not here for the full review and you just want that soundbite, that takeaway, the TLDR version, basically woman has existential midlife crisis and joins a bunch of cults. Like, that's it. That's all you need. If you don't want to read this book but you need to know what it is, that's all it is. Alex Marr is well into her 30s, as she says in the book, and she can't really deal with that, and so she's yearning for some transcendence, and she joins a bunch of cults. And then she writes about it and exposes all of their secrets. Yeah, alright, betrayal. Awesome. Alright, but if you are here for the full review, this is what I've got to say. The book is kind of an extension of a documentary that she directed called American Mystic. I think it might still be on Netflix, it might not. I watched it when it came out, and it was a pretty good documentary. It followed three individuals in different traditions, and it was this sort of documentary commentary on yearning for spirituality in the contemporary and American way. There's this vacuum in America and in contemporary society where we're sort of at a loss for religion. We don't really know what we're doing because we're rejecting the dogmas of Christianity or of contemporary the religious hegemony, I guess, and we're searching for these different things. I'm really torn on this book because there are moments of extreme clarity, of this really crystallized, lucid understanding of the predicament of being yearning for deity, for God, for transcendence in a meaningless world. That kind of appealed to me, to my skepticism, and I appreciated it because I've been there, everyone's been there. Then she says something problematic, like she's very flippant and off the cuff about being sensationalist and having shock value and shock factor. So yeah, it's like one step forward, three steps back, and I think that's because Alex Marr actually idolizes the incredulous. So she's having this existential crisis. Repeatedly, she refers to her age, that she's well into her 30s and well out of her 20s, and I get it, you know, culture and society puts a lot of emphasis on age, and women have the short end of the stick with that. I get that. I'm totally aware of the fact that my male privilege is coming through, and I'm kind of bashing her for that. But it ends up being a bunch of navel-gazing and a bunch of, like, anything good that she says is kind of negated by the fact that it's all about her. You know, I picked up this book thinking it was going to be investigative journalism, and it is, but it's sensationalized, and it's kind of all about her and her search for faith and transcendence, which is great and heartwarming, but I didn't want to read a memoir whenever I picked up Witches of America. Also, there's a lot of problematic things in that she kind of treated her subjects like shit in the investigative reporting. She became their friend, she got close to them, she discovered their secrets of their traditions, and then she wrote about it, and she didn't give them a chance to redact or revise any of her writing, which is kind of shitty. Actually, it's more than shitty. It's bad writing, it's bad journalism, and it's just a bad thing to do as a person. So, also, I'm pretty sure one of the chapters is just whole cloth fiction. There's a chapter called Sympathy for the Necromancer, and it's just like, that shit isn't done. Breaking into graveyards and chopping off the heads of corpses so you can do Solomon seal magic, and, like, who the fuck does that? And who the fuck would tell anybody? Like, if you're actually doing that, you've got to be really fucking smart, and you're not just going to, like, oh, here's all my information, stranger that I've met for like a month. Like, that's just, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna get into that. Another thing that she does is she writes as if she were there. All of this is hearsay. All of this. So she did attend a few rituals, and she did go to some campouts and festivals in PantheaCon, but she receives a lot of her information by hearsay, by listening to somebody's stories. And then she writes about it. The way she cultivates this narrative of the information is you forget that it's hearsay. You forget that she isn't there. That's bad writing as well. I mean, it's good if you're trying to tell a story, but it's bad because it's disingenuous to the reader. It makes her an authority without doing any of the work. Basically, the actual journey that she does go on is she is friends with a fairy witch, and she points her in the direction of a teacher. The teacher, she receives her as a student and trains her in the mystery tradition of fairy. Simultaneously, she also signs up with a Thelmic order in Louisiana to be trained as a Thelmite, and ultimately she decides that fairy is not for her, and she does go through with the Thelmic Nerval initiation order, and she ends the book on this really kind of pop culture self-helpy, like the magic is within you or some bullshit like that. Her tone is really pedantic. She sort of, like I said earlier, idolizes the incredulous, and I feel like in her search for faith, she needs somebody who has a bigger personality than her, who feels the world so much more strongly than her, and so she looks for weirdos. She looks for people who are incredulous. And I'm not saying that, like, the people that she interviewed in this are weirdos, because in my community, I know where they're coming from, but as an outsider, she went for the biggest, strangest, most different people that she could find, and she kind of fetishized that, and she sort of made it into this creepy, like, idolized appreciation, like, oh my god, they're so out there that of course they must be tapped into something bigger than themselves. And so she rolled with that, and that's kind of gross too. In that vein of like sensationalizing these characters that are so like outlying personalities in the pagan community, she's really dismissive to kind of the quiet and more mundane pagans that she comes across. She's just dismissive of people who are just going to church to go to church. You know, she's dismissive of these people that are kind of boring because she wants this sensational rhetoric. She wants this book to sell, and so she only goes after like the fringe, most radical, different kind of personalities that she can find, which is not representative of, you know, the broad swath of contemporary paganism. If an outsider were to read this, if a person who is not already in the know with the community were to read this, they would walk away thinking contemporary pagans and witches are batshit crazy, which is bad. It's damaging to the community. If you are in the community, this is kind of insulting. This is kind of a very... It's a sneaky book. Like, this woman became friends with over multiple years. She became friends and close with these communities, and then she just kind of outs them. I mean, that's not what friends do, you know? It's just a disappointing book. It's disappointing. And I mean, as I was reading it, I started out with like a 7 out of 10, and then I went down to like a 5. And when I finished it, I kind of went down to like a 3. So this book, the only redeeming qualities in this are she's really honest with her fear, with this anxiety, this existential worrying going on about her place in the universe, and this striving towards transcendence and searching for it. Like, that's good. People need to read that. But it's still navel-gazing. It's still self-deprecating. Or not self-deprecating, it's still just like, okay, we get it, you're scared, so are we, like, that's why we're doing these things. And throughout all of these practices, she never lets go of her anxiety. She never lets go of this kind of skeptical, snooty smugness that she's like looking down her nose at these believers and simultaneously wanting to be a believer. And it's just like, can you be okay? Like, I get it. Like, I'm the most anxious person I know. I have a lot of existential tension going on in my head all the fucking time. But it's like, I've made peace with some of that. I've made peace with enough of it that I can navigate this world of absurdity while still appreciating and not looking down my nose at other people's spiritualities. It's kind of like an Indian giver of a narrative. Yeah, it's just a really shitty book. I don't recommend reading it. If you want to read it, good for you, but read the reviews on Amazon. They're pretty good. Yeah, I mean, like the 5-star reviews on Amazon for this book are like the good points of the book, but read the 1 and 2-star reviews, because I mean there's actually an official statement by one of the groups that she interviewed on an Amazon review, and it's like, hey, we were played, and this is a terrible book and you shouldn't buy it. And yeah, I mean, Alex Marr, it's kind of disappointing. I mean, I hope you sleep well at night. So yeah, I give this a 3. I don't recommend reading it. I don't recommend you wasting your time on it. It is a good book for those brief moments of clarity, of striving towards something, but it's just buried under all of the bullshit of her really unprofessional and just shitty attitude as a human being. So yeah, 3. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this, everybody. I appreciate any feedback. If you really, really liked this book, if you've read it and you disagree with my analysis, please comment below, and I'm totally open to engaging in that conversation. I don't hate this book. I'm just really disappointed in it. So please, a like is appreciated, a subscription even more so, and as always, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.